In this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to use a SOAP message activity in workflow. This is a little bit more advanced than the prior example where we talked about the SOAP message activity. We just kind of did a technical example. In this example, what we're going to do, it doesn't look terribly different than the prior example. The difference is that we will have data being passed into this workflow dynamically when an incident is created, and do some external SOAP calls to validate some information. So as you look at the screen here, here's our verify caller phone workflow that I've created, and I'm going to go into properties for this workflow. And as you look at the properties for the workflow, a couple things here. Number one is that it is pointed at the incident table. So when an incident is created, this workflow will fire if the conditions that are set are true. And so in this example, the conditions I have set are if the person that is listed as the caller for the incident, if their mobile phone number is not empty, right? That's the context here, or the condition we're setting here. So when we create a new incident and the caller has a mobile phone number, what we want to do is validate that phone number via an external service. And so there is a company out there that does those types of validations, and they offer a web service, which is what we're going to be talking to. I'll actually show it real quick here. So here's the external company that has that service. So we're going to call into their phone verification API and get back, really just for our example, we want to get back whether or not it's a valid phone number or not. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the workflow. So I showed you how the workflow was configured to start based on an incident being created. I'll also go into the SOAP message activity here just briefly. So we've already got our SOAP message configured in the system, so I'm just pointing at that. You select that, of course, and then also the method that we're going to call. So those are the same as the prior simpler example for a SOAP message. Here's where it gets a little bit dynamic. So notice the variables here. I am passing in the caller's mobile phone number. So as you look at that current.caller.id.mobile phone, whatever the value is for that particular incident is going to be dynamically passed in for the phone number. And then down here under our sensor script, what we're going to do is take the response information that comes back, so the output of this activity, and we're going to parse the XML and pull out a particular tag indicating whether or not that is a valid phone number. So actually what that equates to, if I go over to the example for the test site that the vendor has, you can see up here there's a valid number response in their test UI. So that's actually what we're going to be looking at to come back through our examples. We're looking at the valid XML tag that contains whether or not it's a valid phone number. And if it is a valid phone number, we're actually going to update a field on the form where we're going to show whether or not the phone has been validated. It's just a true-false field. I'll show that here in a second. We're also, just for example's sake, going to take the activity output, which is XML, and stick it into the description field for the activity or for the incident, so you can see that. So what I'll do here real quick is go ahead and publish this workflow, and then I'll show you. So here I've just switched over to the incident UI for one that I've already run prior to doing the video. And you can see here that there's this caller phone validated, and there's a check mark that's been put in there. And then under description, you can see all of this XML that's been filled in. And so that was done via workflow. So what I'll do now is just go ahead and run that again so you can see that happen, and I can show the workflow executing. So go ahead and click Create New here. I'm going to pick my caller. So my caller is Abel. This is Abel's phone number. And notice right now that caller phone validated is not checked. Now when I save this, what's going to happen is it's actually going to kick off that workflow, and you can see now that caller phone validated is true because the workflow has set it to that. And you can also see that description has been populated with the output of that activity. And so the XML, if you actually look at the XML, you can see valid true. So we pulled that off inside of the workflow. Then I'll scroll down a little bit more in here and click on Show Incident Workflow. And this just simply shows the runtime view. The workflow is executed. It's gone through our validate phone number SOAP message, and it's gone to the end. So that's a more use case specific example of how you can use workflow, in this case, to call an external service and update data back on the incident record.